In the spiritual community, we look at healing as a lifelong process, and this is very true, especially when we understand what the definition of true healing is. True healing is the alignment of your soul's essence with its divine purpose, restoring unity between the self and the cosmos. So feeling at whole within and feeling wholeness and connection with the collective. And you can think of your purpose as simply being completely you. Any tool used to help you do this is just that, a means to an end. Whether this be singing, dancing, acting, art, music, writing, painting, or any non-creative form of expression, if your soul is calling you towards an activity, you're being guided towards a deeper level of self-actualization through expression. This is why you'll often be drawn to different ways of expressing yourself in this lifetime. It's because your soul is needing a certain type of outlet to facilitate its own expansion. So are we really always in the process of healing? Yes. Earth can be looked at as a school of integration. We come here without any recollection of our eternal divinity so that we can enjoy being a microcosm of the all that is and learn something new along the way. Oftentimes, you'll know exactly what it is that you're here to learn and integrate when you look at your birth chart, but more specifically, your progress chart, because that's the chart that's used to track the development and evolution of a being's soul over the course of their lifetime. So look into that. You will know that there's some sort of fragmentation occurring in the soul if you're in a traumatized state, which most of the collective is. And trauma is simply defined as the feeling of unresolved distress, or any experience that surpasses the nervous system's ability to regulate itself. So based on the following experiences, you'll be able to identify the extent of the fragmentation occurring within and label exactly what it is that you're feeling. Because once you pinpoint it, the awareness is usually enough to spark the healing process, because shining a light on the shadow gets rid of the shadow. So signs of fragmentation can include emotional instability, frequent mood swings, or intense, unpredictable emotions, identity confusion, uncertainty about one's purpose, feeling disconnected from one's values, goals, or core self. There's usually some sort of inner conflict going on. Maybe this is cognitive dissonance, you have internal battles or conflicting desires and beliefs. You're struggling with overall self-acceptance and reconciling or accepting different parts of yourself. There's usually some sort of behavioral inconsistency. So maybe you act in ways that seem inconsistent with your values. Or there's a general disassociation. You feel detached in life. You feel like you don't really connect with yourself or your surroundings or the people around you. Maybe you experience events or emotions as if they're happening to somebody else. You could be in a chronic stress or anxious state, feelings of stress or anxiety that seem to have no clear cause. Maybe you have a difficulty managing this stress, so it leads to physical or emotional exhaustion. It could be that you have unresolved trauma related to past emotional traumatic experiences, therefore making it very difficult to process or integrate the past trauma into your current life. This can affect relationship dynamics, so you struggle to then maintain stable, healthy relationships. And now there's an overall pattern of dysfunctional relationships and lots of chaos in your life. And as human beings, we're really meant to lean on and depend on relationships to survive for our thrival. We came to Earth to be socially connected. Maybe you have addictive or compulsive behaviors that are used to escape or numb emotional pain. Or maybe you just have physical symptoms that are so unexplainable, you just have these ailments or chronic health issues without a clear medical cause. Physical manifestations of stress are almost always linked to emotional turmoil of some sort. Finally, maybe you have a lack of focus, you have difficulty in setting or achieving your goals, you feel aimless or directionless, and you struggle with maintaining overall commitment to your long-term objectives. So what do? I'm going to give you a 5-step process to begin true healing and unifying the different parts within yourself so that you can feel more complete. So here they are. It's to identify, connect, express, integrate, and align. And we're going to take a moment to dive into these to understand how exactly to become whole. The first step is to identify the core issue. This would look like labeling the emotions that you feel, the resistance in your life, or any wounds that you're carrying with you. And you can start to become aware of them through the triggers that arise in your day. Take note of any self-sabotaging behaviors, victim complexes, negative thoughts, and when they happen, what triggers them? When do your toxic patterns come up? And any ways that you feel less than whole. Take note of these experiences. You'll start to see patterns forming. Like maybe you self-sabotage as soon as you're about to work on your business. Maybe you start doom scrolling as soon as you're about to cook a healthy meal. Take note of it. The second step is to connect with the trauma or wounds by understanding them, bringing curiosity and acceptance to them, and giving them room to breathe and be seen. Because again, anything that lives in the dark will remain in control. So the goal here is to take away the power that your trauma has over your life by bringing a new comforting perspective to the situation. Acceptance opens up your energy field and judgment constricts. The third step is expressing everything that the pain, trauma, or wounds are asking to be expressed. You're now becoming a vessel for the pain to move through you. This can look like journaling, crying, somatic shaking, ecstatic dance, screaming into a pillow, punching the air, shaking your booty, breath work, or any other form of physical release, so that the body's no longer holding on to these deep, painful memories. The fourth step is to reclaim the story of what happened to you and redeem it in a way where it's now integrated within and can be reframed and used to help propel you into higher timelines. This can look like someone who's healing from an abusive relationship, and once they've processed their emotions, they further heal by telling their story through the lens of an author. Now they can write a book and help others heal this same wound. The fifth step is to ensure that there is a wholeness within the mind, body, spirit, because healing is not linear. And oftentimes, what we feel we may have processed in our first round of healing comes back up maybe even years later to be viewed from another perspective. This doesn't mean that you're going backwards. It simply means you now have a new vantage point through which your past experience wants to be noticed and further integrated. An example of this can be someone who heals their body dysmorphia the first time by accepting their appearance in the mirror and changing their relationship to food. They feel incredible. They did their integration at the time and then they moved on. Then years later, now they've become more social. They're going out to parties and they realize they keep adjusting their clothes in public. They keep fixing their appearance when they're around other people. Now there's a different facet of the same trauma being expressed in a different way. And that's okay. This is all part of the unfolding process of healing. Healing is more like a spiral than it is a line. And what we heal from, we often revisit through new lenses throughout the course of our lifetimes. One of the most important aspects of healing from fragmentation is allowing yourself the space to mess up. Healing is not pretty, and it's not expected to be either. We have this idea that healing is meditating on a rock in front of a lake while doing yoga poses. This couldn't be farther from the truth. In reality, healing looks like going down into the depths of our spirit, into what feels like hell. It's tormenting, brutal. It requires a very strong soul to pick yourself up out of the darkness and into higher states of existing. There will be blood, sweat, tears, and knowing that this is the process should give you the permission to make it uglier. The uglier it is, the more healed you're likely becoming. Expect to be highly tested also by your ego. Your ego is going to bring up a lot of resistance throughout your healing journey. You're going to have a lot of inner critic chatter. It's going to cling on to your unhealed self out of fear and discomfort because the ego loves the known. It loves safety and knowing what to expect. So if you're being tempted to play small or repeating toxic cycles or behaviors, then just know this is also a divine part of the healing process. It's all meant to help you distinguish between your soul's inner voice versus your ego's voice. One of them is operating out of faith, and the other one is operating out of fear, a topic I will also be covering, so stay tuned for that one. It's also important to recognize that on our journey, we're going to be called towards different modalities of healing. And this can look like being called to practice certain faiths or ideologies. But the ego also gets trapped into these dogmatic beliefs when it clings on to one truth without having any more openness for new insights. This is often how people fall into different pipelines and spiritual psyops within their spiritual journeys because they're being led by fear, based on usually a metaphysical experience they've had because they're not grounded, or a physical one they've had, and so they end up volunteering their consciousness to a new paradigm that they no longer have conscious choice in. This can look like someone who was coerced into a very overt cult, and then they escaped simply to end up into a covert cult-like religion or any other system that's meant to control a being into submission and out of their power. So be very mindful on your healing journey while you're vulnerable and in this very fragile state of delicacy that you aren't being guided to slaughter, that you are always in connection with the truth, which resides within you always. And this truth can be accessed through a remembrance of your immortality and a connection to the Creator and your higher or quantum self. You can do this through any form of meditation, through connecting with other human beings, through journaling, through creative outlets, and by simply stating, I now remember my divinity and am open to being led by God's source and the truth. You can also tell which path is right for you based on how it makes you feel. Because the truth is, religion and all of these other systems of control are also placed here to help certain beings with wherever they're at on their journeys. So they are tools that can be used to help someone tune back into their own power, but they aren't recommended because the deception and manipulation is so strong that a being can often forget their connection to themselves entirely if they stay in this pipeline for too long. So anything can be used for good, but ultimately you and your own inner knowing, your inner authority and sovereign self will always be the most powerful force of nature in this universe because you are always connected to the God within and the God without. So I hope this helped you become more whole. Follow for more esoteric wisdom that connects you to your divinity.